Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt with Illinois WorkNet. I have one thing to show you that I think you'll like. I just discovered it last week that we could actually do this now. So I want to show you how to accomplish it. And then I'm going to take you live to production so that you can see where it is. After I get done showing you that, I don't have anything else to oh, I do have something else to show you. And then we'll take it off recording so that you can have questions answered about participants. So from your group, you will go to your list of customers and you will see your customers. Now, this has to do with group attendance. So if you have a workshop, you can check everybody in all at one time. And I don't know if you've been doing that or not, but one of the things that you can do with your participants is have them check in on their own, or you can now do a group check-in. So this is test data, and I'm going to go to Rick Elliott here. And on their profile, under their career plan, when you're looking at a service or a step, on each of them, there is the add attendance button. So on here, you can add attendance. So when you go in here, you can click on this link and you can enter the attendance for that person. So if it was a workshop, or maybe it's something that you have multiple people attending at one time, you can go in here and click on the attendance. Sometimes I have to refresh my page to get it to open up. So let's go here now. Let's open it now, yay. And so if we go in and we enter 1:30 p.m. and they check out at 3:30 p.m. And they've done that every day this week, this is one way to get that attendance added. And then if you are adding the attendance, specifically you who would be able to verify the attendance, then what you can do in one fell swoop is add the attendance, and then you can save it, or you can submit and verify attendance. So I'm going to actually do the all-in-one step, and I'm going to save that, and it shows up that I verified this attendance and that the participant had 10 hours. Now, if you're trying to track participation for anything to make sure that they're getting there when they're supposed to be getting there and all that kind of good things, that's where you can do this. Now, on the service provider tab, for you to be able to do the group attendance, you have to make sure that you have a provider selected for that attendance. So if you are Dream, or if you are any of those organizations in our program, you would have to make sure that your provider is selected. Now, that's one way to do the attendance. The other way, and I'm going to do this through my own profile, is when you are in Illinois WorkNet in general and you are logged in. So this would be you as the provider or the global you of your participants. On my dashboard, they can go to attendance down here on the personal tools and go to attendance and click the button. And then if they have a provider assigned to them, if they have a program or a service assigned to them, then you would click the provider, you would click the activity and you would select today's date, and then you would enter hours for the selected date. Now, if you are a participant, you will only see your name with the row. If you are a provider, you will see all of the names associated with that service on today's date. So now I see Desaya James and I see Kevin Cobbs, and this is not part of your program, but it probably, but these, you could then do the check-in for 1:30, check it out at 3:30, and then all you would have to do, or you could do all of this. You cannot verify it from here. You would have to go back to the profile to verify. But if the participant enters their attendance as an individual, then you can go into their profile and verify that attendance as well. Okay, are there any questions about the attendance part?
Hey, D, it's Darrell.
Wait, Karina had her hand up before you spoke.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Karina, what's your question?
Hi, Dee. So I really like that that we could do that. Is it possible that we can, and I just want to make sure, is it possible that we can use that as far as attendance while they're at a work site for them to check their attendance there?
I think that would be a perfect way to double check attendance. That is assuming that they remember to check in. That's the big question.
Well, that was my main question. I mean, the other stuff will work out as far as making sure that, you know, we hold them accountable for checking in and out. But we've been needing something, you know, as far as to be able to track their attendance. So this is very helpful. Thank you very much for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I believe that this is available from a mobile phone, and let me go to Illinois WorkNet on my phone right now and make sure that if I'm logged in, I can see this. So let me do, and y'all can check this on your phones too. And under the menu on your phone, I know you can't see this very well, but on the menu on your phone, you can log in and it just asks you for your username and password. And then I can sign in. And when I have my phone, the ribbon goes across the top. I know it's hard to see, but you can click that drop down arrow and I see the attendance at the bottom of the list. And so I could click on that and you could use this then to have your youth sign in. They'd have to have data on their phone though, because that would be taking them to the internet.
Okay, Ray, we're gonna try to test that out this week to see how. So we might be bugging you with a couple questions this week if we can get it to work.
If this can work for you, this was one of the intended opportunities for this attendance app, was for worksite tracking.
And then would we still have to upload the timesheets as well?
Yes, you would.
Okay.
But if they're tracking the attendance on here, and is Brandon on the call? I don't have my attendance list open.
Yes, I'm here.
So what do you think about having the attendance associated with the work site?
Well, I was just thinking about subsidized wages versus if it's a youth that's just doing stipends or incentives if they're not actually doing a subsidized job.
They'd
Which
still have to upload the payroll, but
Right.
didn't you say upload timesheets?
Yes.
Do you want to, Brandon, do you want to think about that and do any checking that you need to do and get back to everybody next Tuesday, since we have another TA call next Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Karina, are you done with your questions?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Darrell, your turn.
Okay, so I see for the second drop down, it says activity. Is there a way we can go in and like populate those with the different activities we have? Like we have our apprentices do CPR and first aid training, and that's normally different from their work site or a normal class day when we have them in person. And so would we be able to go in and pre-populate those activities?
So what happens with the activities is when you have added the service, so the status on this one is started open. And on the service provider, I've selected my provider, which you would select your own provider. And then in the customers list, all of those activities that are current, so currently active, would show up in that drop-down list for them to select. So if
Okay,
they're
thank you.
doing this activity today and this activity tomorrow, those two items would be in their list.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions about the attendance, the activities? So then if I went in and they had added their own attendance, then I would have to look at this and I'd have to see, okay, well, do they have this hour and this hour and this hour? And then I would verify. You would verify those hours. So the time sheet might still be useful if it is subsidized wages. The provider or the work site might be the one to send you the timesheet, what they say versus what the youth says. Because I know when I have employees, their time isn't always the same as what my husband says their time that they worked was. So it can vary a little bit. All right, any other questions about that? Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to show you about work sites. And I know we talk about work sites on a regular basis, kind of, sort of. But I wanted to point out that originally, when you guys had your original grants with CYEP and CSYEP, they were basically the permanent employment. Now you can have any of these employment opportunities for your grant. So what you want to do is when you're looking at your grant program, and I'm going to select my provider, and I look at work-based learning, that is a successful or unsuccessful completion, where a permanent employment is a termination. So if you are in effect giving this participant the 90 days or the 270 days of employment, then you would want to make sure that it is any kind of position other than the permanent employment. So if you want to fix that on any of your jobs, you can go in and go to Gumbo Yayas. and you go into the description of the job. We're going to go to, oops, sorry, I just did that wrong. You're going to go into the job itself. And you're going to, in the job itself, go down here to where it says employment type. And you're going to change the employment type to work-based learning, job shadowing, work experience, internship, on-the-job training. Apprenticeship would more than likely be a permanent type job, but a pre-apprenticeship could be a learning experience. So permanent employment and apprenticeship you would want to avoid if you are doing work experience. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about on here? Because on a service, I know I had a conversation with somebody, they had entered everybody as permanent employment. And so they had to do terminations on the people, where if it was one of the other opportunities, they could have just done successful or unsuccessful completion. Now, the subsidized days count the same no matter what the position is, as long as you have a subsidized start date and a subsidized end date. Does anybody have questions about this? Sam, you're looking intently. Are you good with this?
I think so. I guess my intent look was, is there a place where I can find the definition of those employment types? Because
no, I don't have definitions anywhere. I could
guess,
maybe work on the instructions and see if I could update those.
okay.
It's
I'm
defined in the services that we have added, not necessarily of what the type of job is.
Okay.
Hey, Dee.
Yes, John.
John, a question. So this is, say, for example, we're starting new, I mean, not new, but we're starting a new summer and we have workplaces. Is this where our clerk who usually does the workplace placement, is this the first start of it, or she's already put everything in terms of the work site and the people? So where does this?
You need to add the work site first, and then the customers get added to the work site from their career plan. Do not add the customers from this page.
Right, okay. So they start with the work site first. I mean, with the what they've been doing before.
Yes.
And so when do we use this then? When does that person utilize the worksite placement?
Are you giving your youth subsidized wages at a job?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Then you need to be using the worksite placement.
Okay. So once they, my worksite person probably is not on the air yet, but I just want to get it clear for my understanding. So she's placed everything in terms of the worksite thing, and then she goes here later on to put them in and add, like, all of them going to be work learning experience, work-based learning.
Okay.
And so she'll go into that, or it's going to populate anyway.
Right. So the difference on here as well, the difference between permanent employment. Now, if I were to change this to work-based learning, we have an estimated length in weeks. And so for the 90-day time period, that's about 13 weeks. So you have to make sure that you're entering the length of employment. And so Karina had asked the question, if they finish the full subsidized hours, then it's considered a successful completion. Yes and no. If they finish their subsidized hours, they're just out of subsidized hours. If they finish the time period for the job, it could be a successful completion as well. And they may not have used up all of their subsidized days. Does that make sense, Karina?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I just needed to make sure.
Sure.
Can you repeat that one more time, Ms. D?
The, what did I say? Okay, so if a participant uses all of their subsidized days, they may not have finished the job. They may have just used all their subsidized days. But on a work-based learning time period, so this one might be, this one right here might actually only be 8 weeks. So they go from this job and then they go to another job, and it's 8 weeks and 4 weeks. And so it could be a successful completion whether or not they've used all of their subsidized days or not. So Donald, does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
So a successful exit would still be them having a permanent job, am I correct?
No, a successful completion is they completed their work experience successfully. And it may not necessarily mean that they used all of their weeks. Maybe they achieved their goals for that position in a shorter time frame. Or maybe they worked more hours every day than was originally anticipated. Maybe they were only supposed to work 4 hours a day and they ended up working 6. And so they accomplished their goals with that workplace. Because you guys should all be setting up goals with these work sites. Okay, so Karina, does that answer your question?
I might have more questions, but I'll just keep listening for now.
Okay. All right. Sarah said in the past, in the past, I had mentioned that Sarah could put all in work experience and put 52 weeks in length as the total they would ever work. So that could be put in as the cap. That's how I did it. I hope maybe this can help someone. Yeah, so what you can do, it really depends on your program. If you are a summer youth program, your estimated length in weeks would be 13, because that's probably going to be a cap for the amount of subsidized days. And most of the time, those subsidized days are what determine whether it's work experience or permanent employment. Now, if it actually is permanent employment and you're just going to subsidize them for the first X number of days, then you can do that as well. And so 52 weeks is a year, is that category 3 and 4 for the 365 days of subsidized employment. So depending on what your youth is doing, you can use that method that Sarah had typed into the chat. All right. All right. Anything else about worksite placement? Eva, do you have a question about worksite placement?
Hi, yes. I was wondering what your definition for internship for employment type is.
I'm sorry, what?
The definition of internship under the employment type.
Apprenticeship?
Internship?
Internship. It's basically not a permanent job.
Okay, cool. So it's kind of, okay, it's normal. Perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
So the biggest thing that you guys have to realize is we have a lot of options in here because that's what people call them. You know, not everything is work-based learning. Sometimes it's internship. Not everything is on the job training. Sometimes it's job shadowing. So we have all of these in here. but everything except for permanent employment is basically a work-based learning opportunity. Apprenticeship is as well, but in most cases on an apprenticeship, you get hired and you start an apprenticeship at that position so that you can keep the job or progress in the job. We have a whole Apprenticeship Illinois thing going on in the state. So there's millions of dollars associated with this project for Apprenticeship Illinois. Okay. Anything else on work site placement? Okay, so let's go back through and answer some questions from the chat that I may have missed. Shauna, if we're going to stop the recording, can you ask your questions then?
Yes, Dee, when we stop the recording.
Okay. And then Monique, can your questions be asked if I stop the recording?
Yes.
Okay. Eva, you said, do we have to put in the activity description separately? Where were we at with that? When did you type in that question?
No, yeah, you're good. You answered it beforehand.
Okay. Karina said she's going to test out the attendance. They have finished the full 6. We answered that. We answered that. We talked about that. Okay, Darrell, I think we can answer your question now. Brandon, the question is, can you, about to max out on their 90 days from last summer, can we move them to category 2?
Yes, it just you have to subtract however many subsidized days. If they use 90, then you would have to subtract those 90 days from the category 2 maximum subsidy, which is 270 days. So you just have to subtract however many days they use in category 1 when you transfer them.
Oh, and look at that. Brandon answered a question for those definitions. DHS and DCO have defined the different types of employment in the NOFO program description of IYIP. All employment types are listed and defined after each category narrative, so that you guys can all go back and look at your NOFO for those definitions.
And it doesn't have to be the original NOFO, like the application materials for the continuation application. There's a non-NOFO program description included with that, which is pretty much the same as last year's, but it still has all the program description listed in it. So it just after category 1, it just basically defines a couple sentences what category 1 is, and then the next thing it starts defining the different types of employment. So the different types of placement the youth can have for work.
Great. One of the other things that I wanted to point out to everybody is you've got a lot of resources available on Illinois WorkNet for you to use with your youth. And right here under the main menu on Illinois WorkNet, under youth resources, we have guides, service locator, job finder. We've got articles about cyberbullying, a parent's guide to protecting their kids online. We've got the youth guide, service finder, careers, wages, and trends, your success stories. And then there's even more articles. Many of these articles are associated as resources for Employment 101, but I just wanted to point these out. And if you keep clicking, they keep coming. Those articles just keep coming. And so if you're trying to find something specific about getting kids to volunteer or financial aid, or how are they going to get to work? Why would they want to buy a car? All of these sorts of things, they're all in here as a resource for you guys. So I'm going to grab this link and I'm gonna put it in the chat so that everybody can find it. And it's just there and it's just available for you. All right, Antoinette, you have a question, or you have your hand raised, I guess I should say.
Hey Dee, how you doing?
Good.
Okay, so my question is, when the youth was completing or trying to complete the Illinois WorkNet application, it would show an error. And from my understanding, the case managers had to add them in. I just wanted to know, is that still an issue, or can they complete the applications by themselves now?
No, they cannot.
Okay.
We are working on this. You have to add the customer here. We do have a paper copy that you can have them fill out, and then you can data enter the information at a later point in time. But there are too many things still happening that I would just prefer that you add the customer in through the system and finish the information.
Okay, how do I get a hold of the paper copy?
It's on the partner page.
Okay, thank you.
Going there now. So it's on the full list of resources, and it is right here where it says application process. It's the second item down, paper application for DHS Youth program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions that I can continue to record? All right, I'm going to turn off the recording. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back on Tuesday, June 7th with our next TA session. Have a great rest of your day.